Hello everyone, Shroomraver here, and welcome back to Let's Make a Mini. This is the series where I'm going to be taking some of our favourite characters from the world of video games, TV, movies, comics, all that good stuff, and making them as playable TTRPG or D&D minifigures right here on Hero Forge. Yes, indeed. Now, been a little while since I've done one of these, but I got given quite a cool idea a little while ago for one of these by a good friend of mine, Nick, aka Suuperblah. His links you'll find down in the description. Why not? Check him out. He's a good friend of mine. I play a lot of Dungeons & Dragons with him. And he suggested a character from a game series, again, that I've never played, but I've seen a lot of gameplay of when my friends have been playing. And that is going to be Jack of Blades from the Fable series. Now, late last month, it was announced that a new Fable game is in development. So this seems to be a really cool time to do this character. As I say, I've never played any Fable games, and I'd never come across the Jack of Blades character. But I looked him up and was instantly like, he's cool, we're doing this. There's a lot of interesting things that we can do with this character. We're going to be experimenting a little bit with poses and some items of clothing and gear that we don't really get to use very much. So, without further ado, let's make a mini. So, as with many, we're starting with the male human character, but we're not going to be focusing a lot on his kind of bodily features. In terms of the head, he's going to be, as with many, very expressionless. We're going to get rid of those. I've got my reference over on my other screen. What we're actually going to do is get rid of the hair. We're going to get rid of his hair, which is an interesting one to do, I know, but realistically we're not going to be looking at his hair. A lot of what's going to be going on with his face is going to be hidden or masked. Very interesting use of phrase there. The eyebrows we are going to keep on just for now, but again, we might actually get rid of them, which I know is quite a strange thing to do, but it's going to work out. Similarly, if we go on to body, we're actually, we've got the humanoid torso, but that's not what we're going to use. We're actually going to use, if I can find it, it's around here somewhere, we're going to use the lizard-like torso. Which again, I know seems to be a very strange one, but his hands, they have these kind of gauntlets on, and I really want them to be as natural looking as possible. So we're going to go with these claws, and again, that's all we're going to see of his body. We're not going to see anything else, because it's going to be covered up. And if it does see that we're seeing this kind of neck area, then there are ways around this again, but for now I'm going to go with this. And again with the body, really, not a whole lot more we need to do with that. That's about as close as we need, apart from one thing. Jack of Blades has this kind of mask on, and they're quite difficult to get full face masks, but there is something we can do, and that is to go onto the face and go as expressionless as possible. You can go featureless, but we want to see his eyes. So what we're going to do instead is go with this mouthless feature. And as you can see, we've gotten rid of the mouth there, and that's going to work really nicely. Now, this looks very strange at the moment, I'm aware, but the gear and the colouring is really going to bring this to life. So that's pretty much all the features out of the way. Now we can get down to the fun stuff. We can start doing the gear, the clothing, and the colouring. So, starting off, there's an alarm going off there. Unfortunately, you're going to be able to hear a lot of stuff in the background because it's like sweltering hot at the moment. Over here, so I've got my window open and everything, so all kinds of sirens are going to be heard in the background. It's unfortunate, but it's what we're working with. Now, in terms of headwear, we are, as I say, going to cover this up as much as possible. My computer's overheating just a little bit, so things are going a bit slower than I would like. Now, what we want here is just this plain hood. We want him to be literally as plain as possible with the hood, and that's going to be quite a good one to go for. Nothing on the shoulders. The kind of chest area, he doesn't really, he wears armor, but it's a little bit plainer than that. The one I quite like for him, weirdly, is this robes. It allows us to get just a little bit of color on the chest kind of area and mix and mingle with the kind of the reds and the blacks going on. So that's going to be quite nice. And as you can see, he's got those clawed hands going on there as well, which is going to be very nice. In terms of the rest of his clothes, we're not going to put gloves on. We could, as you go right down to the bottom, you can see we've got these monstrous claws, which would seem to be more in keeping, but the reason I don't want to do that is because they don't have the kind of the scale thing going on, whereas his gloves, quote unquote, they do have kind of ridged effects which are not as open on the monstrous claws, so we're not going to do that. That's why we've gone with the lizard-like body, so we can get those hands going. Now, for the legs, we have a bit more armor. It's kind of in strips, like banded armor almost, and there is an option for this. It's not one we use very often, but it's going to work very nicely with Jack of Blades. The one I have in mind is this, the segmented leg armor. And as you can see, it's got this kind of segmented effect going on, and it's also got these kind of undershorts, which work really well with his kind of aesthetic. Finally, for the feet, we want something, again, segmented, layered, and kind of nasty looking. So we do have stuff down here like the Blackguard boots, which are a possibility. I'm going to check them out. Is that them? That's the Dragon Knight boots. What am I looking for? The Elven ones might be good because, again, they're very segmented. And I think that might be what we end up going for. So, like, you've got these heavy armor Elven boots, which they're not quite right. The Elven boots, on the other hand, ooh, they're good. Again, you've got the segmented thing going on there, which matches up quite nicely with the rest of the armor. So that's what we're going to go for here. And that's the clothing pretty much done. What we want to do is add a cloak. He does have this kind of tattered cape, and the thing is, it's not full length. So again, we're going to get an opportunity here to use an item that we don't use a lot of at all. And that is going to be this one, the short ragged cape, which, as you can see, is short. It's exactly what it says, it's short and ragged. And that's exactly what we want. We don't want a full-length cloak because he doesn't wear one. It comes down quite low, but not all the way. So that is pretty much going to be as good as we need. We're going to just edit the pose, once again, just for the ability to colour it. We're going to make him, the come at me bro pose is the easiest to colour. So, with that, we're going to take a look at some of the colouring options we can use on Jack of Blades. And this one, again, it might be easier to just go with creating it from scratch. So that is what we're going to try and do. We're not going to go with a theme, we're not going to go with a preset for the skin tone. Instead, what we're going to do is build him from scratch. So, the mask is first, and what we have here is this bone effect mask, and that's going to be as close as we can get, and we're going to try and make as much of him look like that as possible in terms of the facial features. Very plain, there's hints of red going on, and we might try and accentuate that in the mix. We're just going to do the eyes for now, and of course we're going to go with these red ones. Yeah, that's perfect. If we go into the mix and we look at the custom options, we're going to try and make this red and see if that works. It's not ideal. No, I think we want to keep that white, and it will go back to it eventually. Yeah, I think we're just going to keep it at that. That seems to be the way to go. We could try and play around with it like we did in Midler in the last one, but realistically here it's not going to get us the effect we're looking for. We've already got little hints of red with the low one, so we'll stick with that. And now we can start working on the rest of it. So what we really want here is a very dark skin tone for the gloves. And we can find that down here. This is normally used for animal-like noses. As you can see, this fleshy bit one is called snoot. So we're going to do that, and we're going to pump that into his hands. And if possible, There we go. We're going to zoom all the way around. It's taking a little while to do here. There we come on now. Work with me. There we go. We'll add it onto there. And hopefully... come on now. Work with me. There we go. We're also going to put it in there. What I'm going to very briefly do is remove the headwear. Just so we can see what that looks like once it eventually loads up. As I say, it's taking its sweet time. We're just going to remove that and see what it looks like underneath. And that's pretty much fine. We want that dark skin tone. I'm going to make the ears black, actually, if I can. As I say, it's taking a while to load. It's very hot, and that is affecting my computer's performance somewhat. Let's make those ears black. If nothing else, it's just going to make the interior a little naturally darker, which is kind of what we're looking for. So we go back onto clothing, we'll add back in the hood, and yeah, that's going to be absolutely fine. So now let's work on the rest of the clothing. We're going to be using a lot of reds and blacks here. So if we go onto the cloth, and we'll take this classic red, we're going to make the hood fully red. Let's add red onto that as well. The cloak, that wants to be red as well when it eventually works for me. Come on now. There we go. Looking at him, there's a bit more red here. We want this bit probably to be darker. If we put red on the majority, that should be fine. Yeah, that's not bad. Yeah, I think that'll do quite nicely for that red. The armor sections, there's going to be bits of red on there, but we want that to be metal, I think, looking at him. Yeah, so now let's go to some black and add that in. That's as much as we need black-wise there. As you can see, it's just going to add a little bit of colour in, and we will add black to here for the cloth part, and probably the belt as well. Yeah, I like that. Make this aspect of it that colour as well. Lovely. Okay. Now we want his underclothing and a lot of the armor stuff as well. We want to be a little bit two-tone. So what we can do is go to the slightly lighter cashmere colour, add that to here, and that's going to have quite a nice effect. We might revisit this. I'm just going to add that to there as well. We might revisit this depending on what kind of metals we want to use, but already this is coming together quite nicely. So now looking at it, let's look at some metal. I want to get just a little bit of gold colouring on here. That'll do nicely. And that's as much as we're going to do colour outside of red and black on his clothing. What we now want is to look at this colour. I'm going to see that's going to work nicely there. And probably there. Let's see, that should work. Maybe that bit. Perhaps this bit. I'm not sure. Let's work with it like this. Come on. There we go. And the other colour we want to focus on is this darker gunmetal colour. Let's experiment with it this way around. Because the gunmetal is darker, so really I want that to be more at the top. And then I want it to fade down slightly in colour of metal. So I think that's what we're going to run with. I need to go back to gunmetal really quickly just to edit that, because I think this is going to look better. Yeah, it fades down just slightly in terms of the armour, and then we can get this segmented leg section going on with the slightly lighter, slightly greyer colouring. So let's add that in. Right there. Come on. Beautiful. If we zoom around, ooh, we do want to get this going at the back. So let's have that. And actually it's probably better to have some cloth going on there. That looks like cloth wrapping. And then again, the slightly lighter again cloth, or at least a different tone, will go underneath. Yeah, that's better. Cool. Alright. Now for the last part of his metal edition, we want a sort of, do I want a light red on these or a rusted red? Ooh, I think rusted is probably going to be better. Yeah, that's better. Alright. Yeah, that's not bad at all. That's not bad at all. I like that. Yes, I like that a lot. So we've got the kind of armor section. We've gone with as much two-tone as we can to really just add in a few layers to it. It is a layered armor set, so it's nice to have layers of color on there as well. The red is mostly focused up the top. And what I want to do, I just want to experiment here and see if we want to get rid of the eyebrows. Let's see. Is that going to look better? Yeah, that's nice actually. Removing the eyebrows from the mask makes it look even less expressionful, more expressionless. Less expression. Why not? Yeah. So we'll go with that. It gives him almost more a sort of dead-eyed look, which I quite like on Jack of Blades. Now we can work on just building the rest of this. So we're just going to go onto the base. We're going to make this flagstone flooring. He's often, my picture is of him indoors. So we'll add that on. Now, I want to get that kind of, evoke that kind of spooky feel without being magic-y. So what I want, obviously, is the candle clusters is going to be the best thing here. And for item B, I don't want to overdo the candles. So what I want for item B is to revert back to his name. Now, there are a lot of buried blades that you can have as items. As you can see, they're all down here, all these blade options. What I want is a knife. So there's the dagger. That's a ceremonial one. That's an assault one. I think that's going to be better. Let's see where it pops up. If it ever pops up. There it is. Yeah, that's better. It lends itself better than a combat knife, which is much more of a modern thing, whereas this really isn't a modern setting character. So I like that one as an option. So let's get some colour on there real quick. Flagstone floors obviously will be stone. And we'll get a dark stone. This slate grey is going to be our best option. And as ever, before I forget, because I am wont to forget this, let's get that primer on the base. Nice. Now, candles. These are going to take a little while because my computer is slow and we have to do these one by one. This is the one I usually go for, the bright flame. As you can see, it's taking its sweet time. We could speed this process up by just going on a preset and that'll do it for us, but then it will reset all of our hard work, and that is something we don't want. Equally, we don't want that. Bright yellow flooring, not my cup of tea, thank you very much. So we'll scroll around a little bit more. We can grab these candles. Come on, have I missed any? Doesn't look like it. Cool, alright. In terms of candle wax, I think we've done this before. The best option to use is cloth. Let's see what this looks like. I don't want grey. How about this one? That's not bad. It kind of fits. That is not ideal. Let's see what they've got down here. Something like a purple. What is this? That's not bad. Yeah, that's quite good. We don't obviously have a wax material, but cloth is quite good for getting that wax effect, and this particular colouring is quite muted. Go away, malware bites. I'm not interested in you. I hope that didn't pop up. If it did, I'm sorry. Where was I? Yes, cloth for colouring of candles. This particular sort of taupe, or taupe, I think it is pronounced actually, is quite demure. And it's not a very sort of bright, nice looking candle. And we don't want the candles to look that good. We want them to look kind of down in the dumps a little bit. Now, in terms of the blade we're going to have in the ground, again, we want this to be quite muted. So let's make this the colour of the handle. I'm seeing he's got a couple of blades on his belt. I think it's going to be better if we just run with something like this. Same colouring there, that's fine. Let's get a bit of that in there. And a nice leather for the handle, maybe. Something like that. No, that's too much. How about black? Not a fan. That's good. Yeah, a kind of muted brown again. Perfect. So Jack of Blades is nearly done there. All we need to do now is give him his pose. More importantly, we need to give him his weapon. And I do have a weapon in mind. He has this sword, which is, it looks mean. This is the main thing we want to get from this. His weapon looks mean. And Hero Forge, actually, if I go back to hand on the long swords, Hero Forge have actually put in a bunch of new swords. You can see them all here, all these new blades, and they're all massive. All very long indeed. But none of them are quite what we're looking for Jack of Blades over here. What we're looking for him is something even more angular and mean looking and toothy. And the one I have in mind, the Flamberge could be good, but it's not the one I have in mind. The one I have in mind is even more evil looking, if anything else. And it is this one, the Arcane Sword. That's very Jack of Blades. It's angular, it's got points coming off it, it's spiky, it's mean looking, it's exactly the kind of thing we want. We can't get an exact replica of his sword, but we can do quite well with this. So now we're going to add colour to this bad boy. Looking at it, there's hints of red and hints of gold in there. Someone's yelling outside. Not a lot I can do about that. The main blade is just going to be this colouring, which is fine. I think we're going to keep with this red for the majority part of it, of that particular part of the blade. We want this kind of muted gold, because he does have bits of gold, and that is on the hilt and on the pommel. I think I want to try and use the same leather. Yep, that's nice. And as you can just see in here, there's actually a little bit in there, but I want that to be really, really overtly red. I don't want that to be the rusted red, because it's not really going to show up all that well, as you can see. Whereas if we now add in the blood plate, which just sounds better, it just gets that little bit more of an effect. Come on, come around. There we go. Very nice. So that is Jack nearly done. Now all we need to do is focus on the pose. Now I have something in mind for this, but we're going to have to play around with it, because Jack of Blades, in kind of promotional art, he has this very, very often used pose. He's holding the sword in one hand and he's reaching out with his other. Now we can kind of get this effect if we go all the way down to a very underutilized pose, which is this, the shambling pose. This is mostly used for zombies. And as you can see, is that what we kind of want? I'm going to have a look and see if there's anything better. Because what we can do, that's the only one really with the hand pointing forwards. But again, it's very zombie-like, and we want him to be not quite in that pose. So let's see what we can do. That one is an option, but it's a bit too open and casual. Let's see if the pugilist is any better. Not really. It does have the hand forward, but it's not what we're after. This might genuinely be a better one. Again, not particularly. The ring bearer, as it's called, is that going to be any better? Slightly, but not quite. There's got to be something better in here, and we are going to find it. Perhaps literally just the bro pose. Again, not quite what we're after. Maybe this one. This is hard. The pose is a big part of it, is the thing. We might go with just the relaxed one. That's not too bad. Let's see, what else can we really work with here? That's potential. Nah, that's not really an option. Not really an option. I know we're putting a lot of time into this, but I want to get it right. That's the thing. And it is quite hard to do sometimes. Perhaps this is the best one. I think that might be quite good. We've got the blade at his back, which is quite nice. I quite like that. Let's work with this. Let's see what we can do. So if we go into advanced, we can start messing with the arm. We want to bring the arm up. So let's see, if we bend it, it's gonna come up that way. It's quite good. And we'll tilt it out, maybe a little bit up. What's the bend going to do on the clavicle? No, we want to bend it outwards a little bit the other way. There's a make weight. That's quite good. I like that. Ideally, if we could get it coming up even more, that would be nice. So let's try and tilt him. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Let's see if we can twist the elbow. Yeah, that's not bad. And now we need the wrist to come around because his hand is that way, not that way, if that makes sense. So let's try and twist the wrist, as it were. Around to here. Yeah, I like that. That's pretty accurate. I quite like that. Perfect. Alright, I think that's pretty much Jack of Blades as done as we're going to get him. So let's take a little tour around. As you can see, we're just going to click back to here. So yeah, we've got his armor segmented in. The boots kind of match that nicely. We've got that little kind of color filter down with the two-tone all over. Most of the red up on the top part of the torso as well. We've got this kind of nice kind of indoor spooky castle effect going on with the bunched up candles, the dagger almost hidden behind him. His main weapon of the sword looks mean and nasty. It's got this kind of old burnished kind of effect going on here, but also the mean streaks going through it as well. At the back, his clothing is kind of tattered a little bit, and what we've been able to do by editing the pose of the arm is not only get him in his kind of signature pose, we've also been able to circumvent the possibility of his shoulder coming through the cloak, which it was when it was first put into just a generic pose to paint it. Coming around, we've got his arm pose out. We can see the good effect of the clawed hands. The lizard-like appendage there has given us basically a better glove than we could ever hope for. And he's got that really creepy, expressionless look on his face, which is exactly what we were looking for. So there we go, Jack of Blades is done from Fable. Thank you all so very much for watching. I do hope that you've enjoyed. Thank you to my man Nick for suggesting this one. His links down in the description. I'll make sure you check them out. And as ever, if there are any characters that you want to see me create on Hero Forge here, hit me up in the comment section below this video or on Twitter. You can always catch me there. Both of my Twitter links will be in the description as well, along with the link to heroforge.com, the site I'm using to make these minifigures, for all your minifigure needs, for TTRPGs, D&D, all that kind of stuff. Hero 4 is the site for me, might be the site for you too. If that's your bag, I would recommend checking it out and playing around it as much as possible. You'll also find a link to the playlist entitled Building Character from Tulok the Barbarian, the inspiration behind this series. But that's going to wrap things up for me. I've rambled on far too long, so my final thank you to you all for watching. And I guess with that, I'll see you next time. Laters.